Hello to all the comic fans, Marvel geeks, and all the nerds in between. Welcome to another episode of the new and improved Vigilante Vibes, where I give you all the Marvel discussions, theories, and news without the toxicity that's become such a big part in the fandom. I'm your host, Megan Nicole, and today I have a very special guest. He's a very, very talented author who writes adult superhero romance novels like something like the Affinity Theory, which I am so excited to hear all about. Please welcome Dee Williams.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so by day, I'm a marriage and family therapist. I've been licensed in doing therapy for about 13 years. Married, 2 kids, 2 dogs. The dogs are not mine; they belong to my kids. I just babysit them during the day while they're at school. But yeah, by day again, I do therapy mostly in dealing with relationships and trauma. That's the wheelhouse that I sit in. On my breaks, on the weekends, I'm all about some MCU. Been watching the MCU since Iron Man came out. I remember going to the movies and I watched that movie like 5 times when it came out. I was like that. I just blew my mind how like detailed and new it felt and how fresh it felt compared to all the superhero movies that were out back in 2008, 2009. And so been a huge fan of the MCU ever since. So that really was one of the pillars that inspired me to want to write the superhero romance thriller that I've written now. So yeah, I've been writing for about 3 years. My debut novel just came out in October, and just been a whirlwind of an experience of being able to go through the process of writing the book to getting it to production and now being able to market it and bring it to the masses and just seeing the joy that it's bringing so many people. It's just been such a delight to see just how amazed everyone is at how well written the book is. For it to be my first, I'm like, I thought I was just out here doing some chump change stuff. I ain't know I was out here doing some like a serious. So I'm just grateful for the reception that it's received. But yeah, I'm very, very simple, down to earth. Like I said, I just love watching movies, watching TV shows, dissecting them half to death. I think I've done spoiled my kids now. Just got done watching an episode of 911, and we're just getting into like I think the 3rd season, and they did a flashback on one of the episodes, and my daughter turned the TV off. She's like, "I'm tired of these flashbacks." I'm like, "Oh no, I just spoiled my kid. No, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I did this to you. We can't enjoy the show now, and so we gotta wait till tomorrow to watch the episode." But I've loved watching TV shows and dissecting them, and being able to just talk about the ins and outs, and all the different tropes and characters and things like that. So yeah, man, that's a little bit about me. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've heard such good things about your book, which is called The Affinity Theory, and it sounds right up my alley. It sounds so good. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it without giving spoilers, obviously?
Oh yeah, no, not at all. I was
you
running
have
through
it.
my little of course. Yeah, I had to bring my baby with me tonight. So this is my adult superhero romance thriller entitled The Affinity Theory. I tell everyone it is X-Men meets Twilight meets Hancock meets the Avengers. And so in my story, Malcolm, Simone, and their superpowered teammates have come together to take down a maniacal force of darkness who is hell-bent on wiping out the powered population and murking one of their own. And so if you're into any combination of Vampire Diaries, Originals, Legacies, Mission Impossible, The Bourne Identity, Ocean's 11, Law and Order SVU, FBI, NCIS, The Rookie, 911, anything MCU or DC, some amalgamation of that. That is what you're going to get in my book. It's got everything that you love about, your serial crime dramas, while still, giving that super powered punch of the superheroes. I tell everybody in my saga, everybody's grown. And so we're not doing a coming of age story where it's like, oh, I got powers for the first time. No, these jokers got their powers. They're masters of their powers, and they are using their powers. And so every battle is super powered. Like it's explosive. And you're seeing people wallop a big punch in every battle scene that goes down. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And I liken it to if you have your Academy Award movie that only 2 people saw, and you got your big budget film that everybody goes and see, but it doesn't win an award. I'm the big budget film. That's my book. That's my book. I'm the big budget film. I probably ain't gonna win a single award, but you gonna have a good time. You gonna wish that you can't wait for the sequel to come out.
That sounds pretty much amazing. You basically named my top 5 favorite movies while describing it, so that's incredible. It's already on my Christmas list. My husband is very well aware, so expect that.
Awesome.
So it's so interesting that you write a superhero romance novel, which is, 2 things you don't really put together very often, but I really like it. What draws you to write a superhero romance stories in particular?
So for me, human relationships have always been fascinating to me. Anytime you watch a really good show, at some point, somebody gonna start liking somebody. It's how it always gets written. Somewhere in there, they gotta throw a little bit of romance. Even with Law and Order, for example, everybody wanted Benson and Stabler to finally get together, and after like 20 years, we finally get to see them be in some kind of relationship or whatever. And so I get that. I got a lot of that from growing up. My grandmother ran a daycare center in her house, and so over the summer we're over at her house all the time. Because I was the grandson and all the grandkids, we kind of got to get away from taking naps, because you can't tell us to go take a nap. You can tell them go take a nap. You can tell me to take a nap. And so we go sit with my grandmother, and she would have the soap operas on. So Days of Our Lives, Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful, Guiding Light, All My Children. We'd be watching and devouring those, and from there, all the drama of relationships came into play. I'm having a catharsis moment right now. I can remember, because of that, Beverly Hills 90210. Oh, I devoured that show. Melrose Place, devoured that show. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I was all in, because it was all about those human relationships intertwined with whatever the story was going on. And so in the midst of writing this novel, I was very fascinated by how both Twilight and Hancock handled the human relationship, and how it expanded the powers that the people had. So you had Edward and Bella; they were playing off of each other. Hancock and I can't remember Charlize Theron's character in that story, but they're right. I don't either. Like, I was just like, what was her name? I can't even remember her name. I remember her face clearly. But their powers were playing off of each other. And so with that in view, I wanted to use that element in the story to show the necessity of the two main characters coming together, and how their relationship or their powers, because we don't know which one is which, whether it's chicken or the egg, is playing off of each other. And so throughout the book, you're trying to figure out, what is it, their powers? Is it them? Is it them? Is it their powers? And so throughout the story, you're kind of getting this kind of like, what is going on between the two of them, and how is it affecting them? And in doing so, like I said, watching how Twilight treated that and how Hancock treated that in particular, it made for a very rich story to tell in the midst of this really big issue that's happening among the powered people in the city, with this maniacal force of darkness who's trying to wipe everybody out. And so it just made for a really interesting dynamic to play on, while also giving life to this big, gigantic story of heroes and villains. And in doing so, I feel like it's giving everybody a taste of everything. So you got your superhero battles, which is like rah, rah, rah for us. But then you also have the element of the relationships and the dynamics and the friendships and things that really speak toward to more of our feelers, our more emotional people, who really love those types of stories embedded within it. It's because just like with watching like The Rookie, for instance, like my wife loves the show, my daughters love the show, because in the midst of them fighting crime, you're seeing those relationships grow, and you can't wait till somebody finally start dating, because it's like, man, we saw that coming in episode 3. Y'all took too long. What are we doing?
Well, wow, that was really, I felt like that was all really, really relatable. But at the same time, it's like, I could never write a superhero romance story. I do not have the mind to do that. But when you do write those stories, how do you balance the elements of superhero with action with the romance? Do you find one is easier to write than the other?
Well, I'll put it like this. When I first started writing it, it was easier to do the relationship component than the superhero component. Primarily because my story was very dialogue heavy in the beginning. And so you're having a lot of the conversations that lead to relationships and friendships, and, how to, make this person do that. And again, I'm a therapist by trade, so I know all about the human experience and relationships and how we need to talk to people and some of the problems that I've seen other people have. And so I'm just writing things I'm hearing other people talk about and say, hey, how can we weave this into the story? And so in the midst of that, what helped me to really develop the kind of the superhero aspect of it is I just started rewatching a lot of the stuff that I loved. So you're talking all the Avengers movies, all the MCU movies, watching Justice League, and watching the Avengers and Captain America, Winter Soldier. I just started devouring those things and watching how they too told that same type of story of the human element within their powers, because a lot of times it's almost like you're going to get either one or the other. Either they're going to be super powered, or it's going to be a lot of relationship. And I feel like Joss Whedon's The Avengers really did a good job of showing us how to put a team together. You got all these gargantuan powers, but all of them still feel human. To a certain degree. And so being able to kind of weave that into the story, it was a challenge, in so much that once I finished all the dialogue, I thought the story was done. But then I took it to an alpha reader, and she was like, I can't see your book. I can't see what your people are doing. You're telling us a lot of what's happening, but I can't see it. So now I'm going back and having to literally explain, when this person shoots their powers off, what does it look like? How does it feel? What would you see happening when they get into their uniform? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? When a person is punching somebody or kicking somebody, what arm went where? Like, how did the blow land? And so really starting to get into the choreography of things. It's funny, once in one scene, I had to call my wife and be like, listen, I need you to let me fight you for a minute. She was like, fight me? Why? I was like, trust me, I ain't trying to beat you up. I'm trying to figure out how to write this scene, and I need to fight somebody. I need to roll on. I need you to roll on top of me, and then I roll on top of you. I need to move your arms so that way I can see how this is supposed to go. And so we literally spent 45 minutes playing in the bed, trying to do all these flips, and led to some adult stuff, but really get me to get an understanding of what is it that I'm trying to see. And I would do a lot of that. Even when I was at work and I'd have some free time to write a scene, I would sometimes stand up at my desk and I'd be like, okay, so I'll do this, and then, this person comes this way, and everybody looking at me like I'm dumb, and I'm just like, don't mind me, I'm just choreographing. I'm just choreographing. And so it became a very fun exercise for me to be able to, what I see in my head, be able to describe it in paper, so that way when you're in the book, you feel these characters, and you're not just being told they threw a bunch of punches and kicks and then somebody finally fell down. No, it's this person landed this punch and it made them swing this way, and then he looked over there and his heart hurt because he saw one of his people get hurt, and he's like, oh my God, should I go over there? Wait, oh, and now I get hit because I got distracted. And so it turned into a lot of fun to be able to weave these elements together. But it did take me taking the book through the process of me writing, letting somebody else read it, tell me what's missing, go back and rewrite it, do it over again, and go through that cycle about 3 or 4 times before finally being able to strike that balance right.
I've talked to a lot of writers before, and I've never had anyone talk about how difficult it is to do the choreography for a story, because you have the people who do choreography to be in front of a camera, and I feel like that has to be easier than doing it and putting it into words.
Absolutely. Like it's like you know what's happening. Oh, they're punching and kicking. They're punching. It's like watching Dragon Ball Z, right? They punching and kicking. You just yeah. But now, in order for you to feel what's happening in this moment, you gotta know he swung with his right. She brought her leg upward. You know, he clutched her, spun her around. He, took a bolt and threw it, or, grabbed her power, snatched it, threw it back at her. You have to be, I had to be able to say with a certain level of detail, what do I want you to see? Because if you can't see it, then all you know is these powered people are fighting and somebody got beat.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's like, no, something happened. Like, how did we get there? And so you got to be able to describe it, especially with, again, these are not people who are just discovering their powers. And so, like in some books, you don't have to go through that great of a detail because their people are just now discovering their stuff. And so there may be 1, 2 at the most big scenes where powers are being used. No, they know their power sets and they're using them throughout the whole book. So every battle now has to be a choreographed event that you can read. So that way you can visualize it. And so when people are telling me, oh my God, it's like I'm watching a TV show. It's like I'm watching a movie. I'd pay to see this. It's because we went through the level of detail necessary to make sure that when you are reading these battle scenes or you're reading the interactions with people, you can see it. So that way you're not trying to imagine what it's like to have these powers and fight. No, you actually know the electricity surging through her veins reached her hand and then she let out a bolt. Or she crafted a star with her hands. The heat flowed through her veins and crafted a star in her hand, and then she held it up and then threw it, and stuff like that. And so being able to really give people the visualization that you would get if you were watching a Marvel movie, if you were watching a DC movie, if you were watching, anything that's got, these big powers or even just big scenes in particular.
Yeah, and I feel like there's so many other aspects to it because you have certain characters who have certain fighting styles. You have to come up with a whole personality of fighting for them. That is so crazy to me.
Yes, absolutely. And that's actually what made it fun for me, in so much that because I knew the characters as well as I did, it made it easier for me to know, like, what would this person do with this power set in this situation? Because, and I remember some of the people that had read the book were like, I couldn't understand why he did this. He's got these powers. Why didn't he do this? And I said, well, because of the type of person that he is, he wouldn't just go out and go ham like that. Like, he's one who's exercising restraint, and you hear that being said throughout the book. He's exercising restraint, path of least resistance, exercise restraint, path of least resistance. So even though he's got this mega-sized power set, he's not using his powers per se to just lay waste to everything. Mm-hmm. There's a code that he has, and so with that, it makes it that much more interesting and exciting for me to be able to write. How would he handle a situation like this? And so a lot of the outlining that I would do chapter by chapter would go into some of those dynamics. Going back to like when you watch like SWAT or FBI or The Rookie, and you see how the team comes together and says, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. That started to come into play with my characters. I got this power set. and I'm going to use it to perform this task for the goal that we're trying to achieve. And so even though she could do more, but right now this is what my power set demands because of what we're here to do. And so it was made for a very interesting sequence of things to be able to outline to determine how is this person going to use what they have, both powers as well as their wits and their skills, to be able to handle the situation that's been given to them.
I am so into this. Like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
I love how much you thought you put into every aspect of your book. It's so nice to see the passion, because you can see it. The passion is just like coming from you from every word you say, and it's beautiful.
Thank you. Nah, man, listen, I appreciate that, because again, like this has been growing up 5 years old when Power Rangers came out. Oh, it was Morphin' time. What you mean? Me and my brother and cousins be going out in the backyard beating Rita Repulsa, the Putty Patrol. You know, we doing all the things, man. We would watch American Gladiators, go outside and pretend to be the gladiators and the contenders. We'd watch Legends of the Hidden Temple and be doing all the obstacle courses. My brother and I, growing up, we would take all the toys that we accumulated. I'm talking about, I had a troll that was half troll, half Terminator. I had a Power Ranger, had the Red Ranger in him when he was a ninja, the Ninja Ranger. I think it was Rocky at the time. And then a host of other freaking toys we had collected over the years. We're creating whole TV shows. We got the Marker Rangers. We had superheroes of the 29th century. I don't even know where we came up with this stuff. But, you know, we would just go ham, and we would spend hours on hours coming up with all these different scripts of how we would do this and how we would do that. When we started getting heavy in the Legos, especially when Star Wars was when the first three, the prequel trilogy came out, like me and my brother were creating different wings. So X-wing, Y-wing, Z-wing, A-wing, double X-wing. Like, bro, what are we doing? But it's like we're just out here just crafting stuff, and it was like magic, man. Like, we would take pens and pencils and just pretend I'd be in class bored out of my mind because the history professor's going over the same thing 50 times. I'm breaking my pen apart, pretending it's a spaceship flying all over the place. And so this really became a playground for me to, in some way, kind of live out a fantasy of mine of going Morphin' time. And so with every character, it became an opportunity to really dive in and really get to know who they are and to understand their stories and to understand how they've come together as this team who's come just to defend their city. Like, they're not out here trying to dominate the world. They're not trying to, have global domination over anything. They don't want to take over anything. They're just here to defend their city. When trouble comes and the police can't handle it, the military can't handle it, they've been called in to go in, do a job, and come home. And so for me, it just became an opportunity just to say it's Morphin' time without, getting sued for using their words in a book. And so, yeah, man, I've enjoyed this project. I've enjoyed the book. I've enjoyed what's become the saga now, because the saga's gotten much bigger and much deeper than I could ever have anticipated. Even though I knew how big it could get. In the planning phase that we're in now, like it's going to be a trilogy of trilogies by the time it's all finished. And so it's just been me playing in the playground, man, and I've been having a great time.
It seems like your whole life has really led up to this with all of your lifelong interests, has always captured your attention. So what made you want to write a book rather than make a show or want to write a movie?
So for me, I wrote a book off a dare.
Oh.
My favorite, for real. I was I'm a Christian, and I was a former pastor. In 2021, I lost the church that I was preaching at because it was after COVID.
Yeah.
The church was like, we want you to get people to pay money. I'm like, I'm not that dude. I'm not about to sit up here and tell these people don't lost their job. Come pay the church. That's stupid. That's dumb. And so they conspired to get me out of there.
God would not want that to
Girl,
happen.
listen, and so for me, I went through a little crisis because I'm just like, I really did not think, after all the preaching and teaching I had been doing, that this is what we were. But apparently, y'all caught me off guard, so I didn't know this is what we were doing. So went through a little bit of a crisis, and so in the midst of that crisis, I realized that becoming a pastor was my grandfather's dream and not mine. I took his dream on as my own. And so I had gone through the ranks and had gone through the processes and eventually got the church. I can even remember when I did my kind of like inauguration speech church-wise. I said, I wish my grandfather were here to see his dream come to life. I remember saying that. And so, so I knew, but I didn't know until after I lost it. Like, dude, I really did take this man's dream on as my own. And so, right, so kind of going through a little bit of a crisis in the midst of that. My friend at the job that I was working at the time, we were spitballing pipe dreams in the office, and I told her, well, one day, I'd like to write a book or write a screenplay or something. And she was like, dude, you got so much talent. What you waiting on? And so every day for like 3 weeks, she was bugging me. You wrote your book yet? You writing a book yet? You wrote a book yet? Why you ain't writing yet? What are you doing? You gonna write something? When you gonna write something? I'm like, fine. So got a journal, got a black journal, and just started, scripting things off. Like what, this is what it would be. This is the city. This is what they're here to do. And that coupled with a lot of the stuff that I ended up having to go to therapy for to really start to understand and unpack who I was as a person so that I could live my dream basically and stop living off the dreams of others. The characters manifested themselves. So each character in the book is a splintered extension of me and something that I've been through or a character trait that I have that's now manifested itself within the story. And so the good guys are an extension of me. Even the bad guys are an extension of me. Somebody asked me yesterday on TikTok, they asked me, who do you feel like best represents you? I said in book 1, obviously the main male character. That's me. That's me. I'm him. But when you get to once we get to book 3 and you really get to see the bad guy in that person's origin story, that's me too. And that's who I would be if I were ever allowed to go dark. You let me go dark for 1 week. That bad guy would be me. Because that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. But I can't be that because my moral compass won't let me go there. And so so everybody then becomes an extension of me. And so again, I started the book off of a dare. Ironically, when I first finished the book, somebody said to me that it reads more like a screenplay than it does a book. And so rather than kind of hear the cue that came with that, like, okay, maybe I need to figure out how to make this a screenplay. Instead, I was like, so let me turn this into a book. And then on top of that, like, I enjoyed the book process so much that I would just rather somebody else take, I can turn it into a screenplay, but I'm lazy. And I would just love somebody, let's collaborate. You do the work. I've already given you some of the blueprint right here. Just take the blueprint and go do something with it and just give me a byline, make sure I get my cut. And we gonna be golden because I'm so lazy. I didn't want to go the self-publishing route to begin with. Ain't nothing wrong with it. That's obviously the route that I've gone. But I would have loved to have given this to an agent. And the agent will love the work and let's go do something. Because this, I tell anybody, self-publishing is it is not for the faint of heart. You got to be diligent. You got to be consistent. And you got to go on when you don't want to go on. Can't tell you how many times I've been like, I don't want to do TikTok today. I don't want to do TikTok today. They turn the camera on. Hey, everybody, I'm Dee Williams. I'm the author of this book. Come get my book. Adult superhero romance thriller. High energy. Turn that camera off. I'm ready to go take a nap.
It's certainly not for the introverted heart.
Listen. And again, I'm high energy all the time. But again, like, for me, I would have much rather just write the book and let it be done with it. because for me, that's where the fun's been for me. It's just been such an effort in a fun time for me to be able to do the book and to get into the nuts and bolts of the details and all that. I tell everybody, editing the book has been the most fun for me. Writing the book at first is kind of a tedious endeavor, but once the book, that first draft is finished, that's when we get to go into the playground and start doing all of the fun stuff. And so it started off as a dare, and now it's just become a part of who I am, and I can't stop writing now.
Oh, I really liked when you said that you got feedback that it was a screenplay, so you made it into a book. Have you ever had any other surprising reactions or fan feedback that made you rethink certain aspects of your book?
Girl, yes. Man, listen. These Sean Keese and Black Men Read on TikTok, they went through my book chapter by chapter on his live. And the things that they've had to say about the questions that they've had about certain aspects of the book, which I won't spoil for you guys today, I actually had to go into book 2 to make sure that that plot holes were covered and that certain aspects got addressed. For example, and this doesn't give anything away, but they had called some of the elite unit lazy. And I was like, none of my people are lazy. But given how this chapter was written, I can see how you would think that. So now so now in my mind, I'm like, so I'm going to have to do an expanded edition. Because I don't want my people being viewed as lazy, because that's the last thing they are. But the way that this particular chapter, and these particular like 2 or 3 chapters actually are written, I can see how someone would think. Yeah, they're being pretty lazy right now. And that's been the furthest thing from my mind, that they were. And so that was really that's been interesting for me. And so I'm like sitting here thinking, okay, I'm gonna have to do an expanded edition at some point, and like just make sure that that's not the vibe you're getting. And that's just for me. Like, again, the book is perfect as it is, but that's just for me because I got pride issues, and I don't like nobody calling my people lazy, because my people ain't lazy. Okay, my people are not lazy. They out here kicking ass. They are not lazy. And so that was an interesting a thing for me. Another was that when the characters are trained to fight a certain way, to defend a certain way, and I hadn't really thought through where that came from. It's always just kind of been understood. And so one caveat that I did just this week alone, I actually wrote an oath that the defenders of the company that they work for have to take. And that oath then governs why they do what they do. And I thought that it really helped me to further crystallize why my defenders fight the way they do, why they make some of the decisions that they make. Because again, it's understood, but it's never been said. And so it gave me an opportunity to just kind of go in and say, okay, so I want this to kind of be more of an explicit thing, but I don't want to make it so obvious that it's there, that it looks like it's just something you dumped in. And so I looked at one of the scenes and said, okay, this would be the perfect place to kind of drop this in, where you have a mentor and a mentee having a conversation, and the mentor says, quick quiz, what's the oath? Oh, okay, let me get my mind right. I'm a defender, blah, 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 blah. And so now it feels more like a seamless conversation than just kind of a dump. And in doing so, kind of again addressing one of the things that was said in the book. One more aspect prior to the books being finished was that my final beta reader said to me, "You are a therapist. There is no reason why we shouldn't know what your characters are thinking or feeling. So you've got to make us feel what your characters are feeling and think what they're thinking. You're a therapist. This is literally your thing. So if nothing else, we should know more about what your characters are thinking and feeling." And this was after I had already added another 3,000 words to this book before I gave it to her. So I'm like, bruh, are you kidding me? This why the agents don't want my book. They talking about 100,000 words or less for a debut. I'm at 170,000 right now. I can't cut it. I tried to cut it with the first editor. She was supposed to cut it down 30,000 words. You know how many words she cut it down? 300. So I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. And so, but again, she was right. And so I went back and I added all the thinking and all the feeling and particularly, what do you want your readers to know? That was really the question for me. Do I want them to know what she's thinking in this moment? Do I want them to know how he's feeling in this moment? Or do I want it to be inferred? And how do I go about making that happen so that way you can follow along with them and really feel where they're at? And so again, became another creative opportunity. But it was one that was like on the heels of, this book ain't never gonna get out, because every time I try to get these words together, y'all keep saying I'm missing stuff, and you right, I know I'm missing stuff, but I'm tired. And so I was, all right, let's go back in and do this again, man. He thought this. He felt this. Did you feel me?
Oh my goodness. So we're getting close to wrapping up. Do you have any advice for anyone who wants to write their own superhero romance novel or just wants to write in general?
Yeah. So, take your time. First of all, take your time. One thing that I love about my process is that I don't have a timetable. I don't have a timetable on anything. And so going through this process became an opportunity to learn the craft. So if you just want to write, learn the heck out your craft. If you're going to go into self-publishing, learn the craft. There is some gatekeeping, but there's a lot more people in the business, especially in the circles that I run, where we're giving you all of it. We're giving you every bit of information that we can to help you be successful, because somebody had to give it to us. Just in like this last month alone, for example, I didn't know that my book was ready to go live. It took somebody looking at my stuff and looking at everything I'd done and been like, dude, you should have went live 3 months ago. What are you doing? Go live. Go live today. And I was like, are you sure? Yes, you are wasting time. You got everything that you need. Wow. And so, again, take your time. Make sure you're happy with where you're at. Because even when that person told me that, I went back to the missus and was like, okay, listen, they said I'm ready. I need about a day to get my mind right to make sure that I am, because I don't want to rush this. But just, again, take your time. Write your way. Write your way. I'm a plotter. There's some that are pantsers. There's no right way to do it. There's no wrong way to do it. But, write your way and be happy with the way that you write. If you want to do it a different way, do it because you want to, not because somebody else suggested it. Because if it's not coming from your heart, you're not going to enjoy the process. It's going to be work. And when it turns into work, you're not going to want to do it anymore. Particularly with superhero novels, I would say that the one thing that you want to be wary of is that the market is super saturated with coming of age stories. People love them, but there's a lot of them. And so a lot of those stories have been recycled over and over and over again, to the point where everyone's a Katniss Everdeen now. Everybody's, the lady from Fourth Wing now. Like, I keep seeing that get regurgitated in some way, shape, or form, where we're climbing these ladders. Somebody's gonna be the villain, the big bully who's gonna prove his worth, and gotta fight the little person who's the main character, gotta one-up them, and, I get these great powers. There might be a love scene or 3 in it, and, all these certain things. And again, I ain't got nothing wrong with it. Make your money. Do what you do, but know that the market is super saturated with it. And from what I've been told from a lot of the people who've read my book in particular, they've said it feels good to have people who are powered, who are masters of their powers, because we're not trying to wait on them to get ready. They are ready, and so we get to really see a lot of juggernaut battle scenes that were otherwise missing from a lot of the coming of age stories that are saturating the market. Watch a hell of a lot of movies. Watch the Avengers. Watch the Marvel stuff. Watch the DC stuff. What, you know, if you're into comic books, read the heck out of the comic books. People said this. Somebody said this to me, and I'm trying not to turn to a grandpa, but somebody said this to me. They said, "So your book is X-Men, Twilight, Hancock, and the Avengers. You're taking like 4 themes. Like, be original." I said, "You don't understand. We're all taking from everybody."
Yeah.
This is a 3-second blurb to catch your attention so you can buy my book. I'm not ripping from them, I promise. It's a marketing tactic. It's so that you can stop what you're doing and listen to me, which have obviously worked because you stopped to listen to me. And so don't be afraid to tell people, you know, to watch the movies and to see what's comparing, because that's what's going to help you to be able to visualize what you're trying to describe. And again, most importantly, just have fun, man. Have fun. It's your story. It's your baby. Have fun with it. Because if you don't have fun with it, the people who you're trying to sell your book to are going to know. And if they know you're not having fun, they are not going to be motivated to buy your book.
That's very true. And that's very great advice.